people do not truly understand the magnitude of things that happen behind the scenes on a daily basis in our buildings. The amount of moving parts, the amount of teachers that want to be involved in these kids' lives, photography clubs and just general homework clubs and math clubs and anime clubs and Magic the Gathering clubs. Anything that can try to connect a kid to their building. We just have people that are unconditionally willing to give of their time.
That's just a taste of this episode's wide-ranging discussion with the dynamic, energetic, and engaging leaders of the department that oversees all sports, music programs, theater troupes, and more in Douglas County School District. This is the DCSD Notebook Podcast from the top-scoring public school district in the Denver metro area. I'm your host, Communication Director Jason Hackett, and let's get right into this interview. All right, we're here today with Derek Chaney, the Director of Activities and Athletics and Student Leadership for Douglas County School District, and Brad Wiidakas, the Assistant Director of Activities, Athletics, and Student Leadership. And together they are going to inform us of what is basically, Brad, you talked about it a long time ago. This stuck in my head, talking about kind of the three-legged stool of what we do in education: academics, athletics, and activities. And you guys head up 2/3 of that for the entire school district. But the first thing I like to do with these podcasts is to get off script immediately and get to know you guys a little bit. Whoever our guests are, we got to humanize people a little bit. So the thing I was thinking with both of you being in athletics and activities, I'm sure you've got a long history with athletics and activities and coaching and all the kind of stuff. And going clear back to high school, I'm guessing you guys probably played football and basketball and ran track and the whole deal. Or you were like big into acting and drama and student government.
Totally was, just for the record. He was the lead actor.
All of this stuff.
In his school musical.
Right, okay. No. So my question is, with all your experience with all that, what did you try out yourself that you were like, nope, this one's not for me? Because for any number of reasons, and if you have a good story about it, please tell us. That would be kind of cool. One of the things I get all the time is, being 6'3", people go, "Oh, did you play basketball in high school?" No, I grew 6 inches in one summer and then spent the rest of my high school tripping over my own feet. So there's that piece.
There's that. Yeah.
So either of you guys.
I'll start. Maybe a few things we did first, and then Okay, yeah. So actually, in high school, I actually did. Back in the day, it was more normal to do 3 sports. So I did soccer, basketball, and track. So those are my 3. And to go along with that, to your second part of that question, is I knew one sport that would not be for me was wrestling. When you're looking at the ceiling, that's not a good position to be in wrestling. So I tried wrestling out, terrible wrestler. I was like, I better keep the basketball. So that's one thing I never did was wrestling, but played college basketball, Colorado native. I played at Northern Colorado. Oh. Yeah. And then taught
Hall of Fame.
UNC.
Just for the record.
UNC Bears.
Literally in the Hall of Fame. All right, keep going.
Yeah, in the Hall of Fame up there. And then coached at, taught math and coached at Lakewood High School right out of college. And then I knew I didn't want to be an AD down the road. But so my first interview, I was like, I'm just going to see what kind of questions they ask. I was totally relaxed. Like, there's no way they're going to hire a 29-year-old. Because I was so relaxed, I had a great interview. They ended up hiring me.
Oh, nice.
So I was an AD in Jeffco for a while at Dakota Ridge, and then moved down. The activities director at Thunder Ridge opened up. My family moved down here. And I've been in Douglas County ever since. So I got down in Douglas County in 2005. Was an AP at Thunder Ridge for 5 years. And then now I've been the district AD. This is my 16th year as district AD in this role. So yeah. So 32 years in education.
But I think you would say he's a very staunch supporter of wrestling now.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Boys and girls wrestling.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's true.
Everybody. That's true.
Sure. So I'm from the Midwest, right? Little North Dakota. So our school was big. We had 2,000 kids in it. But it was just a different era, So I was a 5-sport athlete. So I did baseball, soccer, track, basketball, and football. Throughout school. I got a chance to be all conference in basketball, all state in football, and then just made the decision to go play basketball up in the Midwest, a little D3 school out there, which was a good experience. But the thing that most people don't realize is I actually was very involved in my band. So I was first chair in our concert band and lead trumpet in our jazz band.
Nice.
Actually ended up winning just this crazy to think about this now as I look back, but it was like the highest level award for band my senior year. So actually, my mom always was sad, fellas, that I didn't play trumpet in college. That's really what she wanted, probably more than for me to play sports. So kind of interesting. I would say I'm right with Derek. There's no question about it that wrestling, I still remember I'm in middle school, and we actually had wrestling as a part of our PE program. Like we wrestled. And so they had dudes come out, and I just remember, I'm not even joking, like I had no moves except to lay with my belly and my face into the mat and squeeze my arms at my sides and just hoping that no one could turn me over to pin me.
You can't turn me over.
Yeah. So I was called the log wrestler for a long time. It was pretty great. And then that's just strangely enough, being from the Midwest is I can't skate. I can't ice skate.
Really?
And hockey was it. Oh yeah, hockey was it up there. And so I'm the guy that would need like that walker out on the ice, and that's the only way that I could skate.
I never skated. I spent part of my childhood in northern Minnesota and never learned to skate while I was up there either.
Oh.
First time I went skating was actually in Greeley with my own kids at that ice arena that they've got up there now. And you see this 6'3" dude, then another 3 inches on skates, who's completely uncoordinated and has never done this before. My daughters have all kinds of good memories of that, reminding me, Dad, it looks so funny. Like your legs are just like flailing up in the air as you're falling in slow motion.
That's right.
You know, the whole thing. You know,
I've never crashed more hard than when I had ice skating. So
man, respect to everybody who does that.
And then with Derek, this is cool. This is already my 29th year in the district. So born and bred, man, out of the Midwest. I moved to Douglas County and started my whole career back in '97. And I've now had the privilege to be a part of this department for the last 3 years and getting to work with the legacy himself, Mr. Derek Chaney.
That's right. That's right.
One thing I was going to add when you mentioned drum, I can't believe I neglected, but I also played the drums. So we had to pick, and there's
big bass drum.
Yeah, I actually did. You're laughing, but in the marching band, when you're a freshman in the marching band, guess what you get stuck with? They get the smallest kids, the biggest instrument. So I'm being with this big old bass drum, playing in the marching band my freshman year. Then I quit marching band, but I just did a concert band after that because then you got to play the drum set.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Much
so
better, yeah.
I still threaten my wife I'm going to get a drum set for our house.
There you go.
That's your retirement gift. I got to remember that to give it to you, by the way.
Anyway, yep. A little bit of both.
That's great. Thank you both for kind of helping us get to know you guys a little bit better. And you referenced it right away there, Derek. One of the things I wanted to talk about a lot with this is you're getting ready to retire, which if this was a video podcast, no one would believe that. You don't even look like you're 45 yet. So like
he's 12.
Retiring. Yeah, exactly. So sports keep you young, clearly, and activities. So talking about retiring and having been here all this time, I kind of want to get Brad's input on this too, kind of the legacy that you're leaving here after helping build so many programs and getting things going here.
Yeah, no, it's been a great run. Like, it's 32 years in education, and it's there comes a point, I always say that the sands and the para hourglass run out. It just doesn't financially make sense at some point to keep going, and to be honest, I think I'm ready for a change. It's been great. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Sign up for it again. From coaching to teaching to being an AD to activities director to the district AD. It's been a great journey, a great ride, but it's, to use an athletic analogy, I think it's time for a new voice in the locker room. I think change is good, right, for the system and for me. I think being in this role for 16 years, it's been great, but it's maybe time for a new voice in the locker room, right? And for me personally, like you said, I don't know if I look as long as you made me sound, but I'll still do something, right? I always joke with people like I got to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, But yeah, I'll still do something. I haven't figured it out yet. I have this year to kind of figure out what my next steps are going to be. But yeah, I'm not going to retire. I'm just going to retire from education and try to do something moving forward. So yeah, it's kind of hard to believe. Every night I stuck in, it's mid-September and I got 1 year left, and it's been great having Brad infused in our department because I don't know if stale's the right word, but you start doing things because that's the way you've always done it. And when Brad came in a couple of years ago, just infused some good ideas and like, oh yeah, we should probably do that. Oh yeah, let's do that. And Brad would say, he kind of, rejuvenated me to a certain degree too, as far as we need to start doing some of these things. And we just brought our department to another level. And I mean that sincerely once Brad got aboard here, because, being one person with the whole district, and have great admin assistants throughout the years. I mean, they've been phenomenal. but it's good to have an assistant director, even if it's not Brad and I, to have a director and an assistant director in this department is just invaluable. I mean, like you said, 2/3 of what you'd mentioned earlier of the stool, and 15,000 participants district-wide, middle school and high school, and all the coaches and everything we do, and the stadiums and everything. So it's been great to have that. So just to bring it to, it's time for a change. Just bring that new fresh blood in and some new ideas. And because what I walked in here in 2010, maybe it doesn't work now in 2025 or 26. And I've always tried to adjust with the time. I think I've done a pretty good job, but I noticed some gaps, like, oh yeah, that's probably for the next person, could really bring that to the next level. So it's just changed. A lot has changed in the last 16 years just in this role alone.
Oh, sure.
Compared to when we, started in education back in the 80s and 90s, so sorry, I feel like I'm dominating the conversation there. So
good, man. I love it.
Really good.
Because this is legacy. I mean, Derek and I will say this, TJ, that talked to him a lot about legacy and about what he's meant. And so I share with everybody that's listening, I think the most powerful thing that Derek Chaney has left behind is two parts. It's one, he's a service-oriented guy, that he is the guy that's in the trenches, willing to do the work with people. So there's never been an experience ever. I've known you now for, this is coming up in a decade now that I've known Derek, is ever been a moment where you feel like you work for Derek. You just work with him on everything. It's a call. It's a, hey, could you just remind me about? Or it's a, hey, can I get your advice? I mean, how many times have I called you just be like, can I get your advice on this? He just has that sage ability through, I think, his natural gifts as a human being, but also his love of this district and the love of what activities and athletics has been. There is no question that he's a service-oriented guy. And the other thing that I know lights him up more than anything in such a positive way is he wants to empower people to be leaders. He just truly, no matter what this, and I really need you to hear this, it's never been about the Derek Chaney show. It's always about how do we better highlight all the people that are in the trenches running it on a regular basis, and how does he come to a place where he can empower people to take on more leadership role, more opportunities to tap into their natural skills and gifts. And you have to understand, it's easy to say that, as a leader, you're like, oh, I want to be service-oriented and I'm going to empower people. To actually have somebody that has done that year after year, month after month, day after day, and for a multitude of people to feel the exact same way about him, that's legacy to me.
That's impressive. Wow.
Huge. Thanks for the comments. Yeah. I'm glad to hear him say it, because that was two of my goals in this. I really believe in exactly what he said. So thank you.
Yeah, man.
And so to think about the number of lives that you've impacted, and that you guys both impact on a yearly basis, weekly, monthly, daily basis, how many, you started to list off some of the stats, how many students that we have that are involved in athletics and activities and student government, things like that in the school district right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you count, and that was just athletics I threw out earlier, right? Yeah. We track those participation numbers. I mean, athletics alone is about 15,000. And again, I'm rounding off here, 9,000 at the high school, 6,000 at the middle school. Again, these are roundabout numbers, and they've increased every year, with the exception of COVID, dipped a little bit.
Sure.
But they've done it. And then the activity side of it too is we have tons of people participating in activities. In fact, Danny Windsor, assistant soup, he loves to tout this number, and Brad and I like to joke about it, but it's, like 120% of our kids are involved in something, right? And the reason being is, if you have a kid that plays basketball and is in student government, they get counted in both buckets, right? So although it's one kid, they're seen as both. So yeah, I mean, our activities programs, just as proud of them as anything else. I mean, and maybe we'll get into it, just what we do for activities in the Continental League is so unique, what we do. And yeah, just throughout our tenure, when you teach and coach, you have an impact on kids, and probably more directly, we're a little bit more behind the scenes now, which leads to that empowerment of empowering coaches and our ADs and our principals, and making them look good behind the scenes, right? And supporting them where we can. And so, so it's been good. And in our role, coaches just as much as ADs, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coaches in our district. And, we always say part of our job is to coach our coaches and to help them as well, so they can make that same impact, directly. So
setting the tone kind of for all of these coaches and assistant coaches, what kind of responsibility is that for you guys? And how do you bring them together and kind of get across the point that this is what it means to be a coach in Douglas County School District, and what's expected of you, and what what are you able to give? Because it's one thing to be, I mean, everybody likes to go out for sports, to play sports and be on a team and things like that. But it's ultimately education and teaching kids how to learn to work on a team and build their own leadership skills and so many things that come from all these different activities. How do you go about inspiring and leading the people that inspire and lead those students?
Well, I'll start with that. You know, the beginning of this year, we had, as a part of our kickoff, it might have been last year now that I say that, but just about this notion of we've got to come to a better place about taking care of the adults who are taking care of the adults who are taking care of the adults who are taking care of the kids. And Derek and I have had some extended conversations about that, Jason, that you just have to change your mindset that the days of Derek and I, as varsity level coaches, both of us in ADs at different levels, but as athletic directors, as teachers, as influencers of kids, those days have come to be less and less. Now, even though we have things like our student advisory group and the ability to still kind of feed back into kids, our one step removed has gotten greater. And so it was a struggle for me, I'll be honest with you, 3 years ago, like just stepping away from that because that was my bread and butter. It was relationships that I had with kids and the relationships I had with our student athletes and being able to speak directly into that. And part of the journey for me, please hear me on this role, was having those conversations directly with Derek before I even applied, like I'm considering that. And by the way, I was not one of one on that. There were several people that called Derek for the same bits of advice. Again, this is speaking to the sage wisdom as a guy who ran this by himself, 92 schools, 60,000 kids for years. It was Derek Chaney.
Unreal.
So please hear me on that. Oh, and by the way, we forgot to say, and for everyone listening, that's not just activities, athletics, student leadership, but for a while there, he was also in charge of all alt ed.
Wow.
So yeah, let's just put all that in perspective for a while there. And part of that advice Derek had before I applied is like, you need to think long and hard about, are you willing to change your sphere of influence? Are you willing to change who you now get a chance to relate with and to breathe life into, support? We mentioned the word earlier, just a foundational pillar for him is about empowering leaders. And so it took me a while to think that through. I really mean that because there's an influence you have with kids. And then the question became, well, who's taking care of those kids? And how do I feed into those people that then feed into those kids? And so you asked the question about how we do. And I think it starts on level one, just about Derek's model about he takes care of the adults. And yes, I'm talking our activities directors, our athletic directors, our principals in the partnership with that, his direct link to our current boss, right? In terms of Danny Windsor as our assistant soup, obviously speaking to Aaron Kane, and then of course going to the school board, we're the bridge between all of that. And we get a chance to share that vision out and about how we're supporting our people. And I think that's part of his superpower is really about modeling that and about how you think about this, right? Out of 9 feeder areas, those are very different feeder areas. And Derek and I often talk about this, just nodding our heads, being like, oh my gosh, it's really different about people's approach. And he's been able to navigate that. We use the term a lot together, threading the needle, about how we still stay on point, stay within the culture and the vision and the norms that our district has, that our department has, but then being able to connect that back to how do I speak into that and still allow the autonomy to happen within our feeder areas with our leaders. I'm assuming you agree with that.
Oh, Brad articulated that very well. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine the amount of hours that go into that kind of work on a season by season basis, and then stack years on top of years. But then also just the people skills that you guys must have. I mean, I see it myself, the few times I've got to interact with you guys. I mean, everybody. You're the most gregarious people, I think, in the entire school district.
Nice.
And everybody's like happy to see you guys. I think that's one of the things. It's like people enjoy getting to talk with you. And I see it at different meetings, the big district-wide meetings that we have. You almost sometimes have lines of people waiting to talk to you that I've observed, which also says something to you, right? And
well, I do have Derek's autograph, so we're auctioning that off at the end of the year here.
Excellent. Hall of Famer.
Hall of Fame, that's right. Exactly. I want to interject though, and I know you had a question there, but I do think again, like it's important that you understand like that again is a piece to Derek that you can't coach. That's what's really important to understand. Like it's easy to say you're a district AD, right? I mean, you go around, but the flavor and the style that Derek has brought is allowing what I said about earlier about empowering leaders and about taking care of those adults. People just lean on him. They lean into him. They seek him out. There's a bit of an approval, like when Derek gives you a thumbs up, you just naturally feel better about what you're doing. It's that influence you talk about, his skill set, that I think has just been something it's really inspiring just to be around. I mean, let's go back 2010, right? You know, you take this gig on, you take Dave Callan and you kind of step into that role. What was like your biggest maybe fear going into that? What was your biggest struggle?
Yeah, I think going back then, it was probably the biggest thing was, earning your credibility with the system. I think that you have it at the school level, but then the deadline, who's this new guy coming in, right? And to, because it's not given, you have to earn it, right? And it takes time to earn it. And he's been in there 29 years, and Douglas County been in this for a while, and so and you want to earn it, right? You want to earn it, like you want to be able to. You work with people in some tough situations. Athletics and activities present some very hard situations, and so there's some tough issues to navigate. So yeah, I think developing that credibility with the system, and then going from the school to a district level, I think was important. And yeah, now we just know a lot of people, right? I've worked with a lot of people throughout the years in some very difficult situations. So we see them at meetings, and you talk to them, and Brad's the same way. I used to joke with Brad the first year. I was like, my God, we go to school and like, all right, Brad will see you in an hour, because he knows everybody at the school, and
right.
and going on. So it's, a lot has changed. I know I want to get to your questions too, but yeah, I think it's just, people are passionate about athletics and activities, and I am too, I always joke, I don't know, it's probably pro, but people could have the worst math teacher in the world. I taught math, or they're not getting playing time or not being a captain on the team. What do you think you're going to hear about? You're going to hear about the activities, like guaranteed. Now you maybe hear about this, but they are so passionate about, parents are, and again, I'm a parent, Brad's a parent, we're passionate as well. And it's great learning opportunities for your kids, and things shouldn't always go their way, right? That's part of athletics and activities, to learn that piece. But there's been some challenging times with that too, to navigate that. And sometimes sometimes our coaches make mistakes. They're not perfect, right? I've dealt with some coach situations, and we got to coach them up, and help them with it too. So getting a little off task, but I don't know where.
No, so that's kind of where I just wanted this to be a good open dialogue about what it takes to do what you guys do, because constantly you've got somebody that wants your attention, and then another dozen people after them in line that need something. How do you balance that? How do you keep, because anytime I've seen you anyway, maybe you close the car door and go driving and, let it all out in the car or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we just call each other.
Yeah. But like, you guys are like also some of the most happy-go-lucky people, even dealing with the kinds of things that you have to deal with. How do you, I don't know, when you get up in the morning, like maybe that you're going to have kind of a rough day for whatever reason. You got a meeting with, whether it's a parent or there's some great issue that's going on, or maybe there's difficulties with funding for a program or something like that. Because that's another piece you have to look at, right? Is helping all the schools with figuring out how to budget and afford to have all the programs that they have. And there's just a lot there. And I don't even want to even begin thinking about how you do scheduling. Like, holy cow. How do you maintain that good energy that you have and just keep going?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I love what I do, right? I mean, that's part of it, right? You don't want a job that you hate, right? And I tell you one thing about this job is it's not monotonous. Like, and you never know what's going to come your way that day, And so it's like, okay, what's going to happen today? And you're right, some things on the schedule, like today was a great example. It's like, oh man, I got to talk to a few people that this is going to be a tough one today, a little bit on a few things, But there's so many rewarding things to it too. And again, I think it's just the passion for what you do, dealing with people, working with people. I mean, that's, and people love activities and athletics for the most part, It's just something like, it's cool about the Friday Night Lights, or just, we do a Connolly Music Festival or the art show, and people just get really excited about it. And you want to just provide those opportunities. So yeah, there's certainly times where all of us, right? I'm sure you included, like, oh my goodness, it's like it's tough. But all of us as educators, you get up and you want to make a positive difference on the system that day, whether it's kids or coaches, whoever you interact with. So I think just having that, and I think we're both a little bit naturally like that, no matter what profession we would maybe do, just to stay positive. It's not always positive, but to stay positive with a glass half full type.
Well, I also think that it's, Jason, it's a good point. And I think Derek and I naturally have a very, very good working relationship. And I think everyone that's listening to this will agree. It's really about who you're working with. And so I think the two of us, along with our MVP of our department, Allison Porter, before that, Sue Dakovich, and then before that, even with Derek with Ann Orcutt. Like let's be real. We really are, like, you got to go behind doors and you got to love the people you're working with. And I think a couple pieces to it is we really keep our why at the center, is that, we're here to serve people and to love people. And I think you're right. Like, we're just naturally people persons kind of already. Like, we just enjoy relationships and authentically finding out who people are. I think for me personally, it was just, it was probably my second or third year teaching. And I just remember somebody asking me advice, but like, well, what do I need to think about teaching? And listen, a lot of what we do is like teaching. We're still facilitating. We're still coaching. All of those words are synonymous in my opinion. And it came down to, I just told this person, I said, you got to love people more than content. You just have to. Like, you might be really passionate. Mr. Derek Chaney is like a great math teacher, like a geeky math teacher. And he's like, I love math. But if he's not great about loving people, no one's going to care about the content. And again, this is a tribute to Derek and setting the stage for where we're at right now. And I know that he would give credit even to his predecessors before him, right, to get us to this place, is though we love athletics and activities, that is just a venue by which we get to love and serve people. And my mom used to say it this way, she just remember this in life, Brad, and she would say this to me, that my love for you is not dependent upon your love for me. It's got to be unconditional. There's got to be a way to be able to give back. And again, I'm sitting here looking at Derek, but that's again, a part of his legacy is he wants to be right with people. And so we work really hard at that. It's not what we know, content, it's who we know. And I learned that early on. I think I remember telling you that over and over again. And you were like, yep, that's right. So I remember walking through Wilcox with this guy. It's just like 100 people down the row. He's like, well, this person's this and this. Hi, how are you? And I'm like, okay, Derek is clearly connected. And it's about, you asked a question of like, how do we navigate that? Well, part of any great conflict management and working through is you got to know people. You got to know who they are. They got to know you. They got to see you and get a chance to connect, that we're there to love on them and serve. And so once you have that as the base, and I'm going to say this out loud, once I trust you, and I mean that, like I'm pointing at Derek listeners, is like once I just got to the point where I can just trust this guy, it just opened up the floodgates for all the other things that we're trying to do to serve people.
That's really cool to hear. It reminds me a little bit of even when we've been talking with teachers, people in our communications department, right? Centrally located at the office. And there will be days when we got to work on websites or something like that. And we need to be reminded of why we're here. And so we specifically make a point to like, we got to get out to the schools and find a way to just get in front of all the education taking place and light bulbs going off over kids' heads, as they're figuring things out, as you're seeing the joy of teachers pouring into these kids so they can learn how to navigate and whether it's little kids reading or whether it's, middle schoolers just learning how to get along with each other at that stage in life, or it's high schoolers starting to think about their careers. Like, light bulbs are constantly going off. And one thing that, as you guys were talking, that hit me all of a sudden, I don't know why I never thought about this, but coming up through coaching and through athletics especially, but any kind of activity really, and teaching, I think about how you would handle conflict. You redirect somebody. You didn't quite get it right, let's do it this way. Whether it's, somebody with their shooting form in basketball or something like that, or somebody hitting the right note in band. Teachers have the ability, and learn this over time, how to course correct people and help them without them feeling like they're just being told what to do, encouraging them. And I'm thinking about other types of jobs I've had, not in education, and you hear about office conflict. And then there's a genre in, shelves in the bookstore about corporate conflict and things like that. And all these books that are written about how to be a team and that kind of a thing. You guys coming up through athletics and activities, you've learned that, that kind of a thing. And am I right in guessing, this is a very long question, am I right in guessing that that's a piece of it, that, you can rely on that coaching aspect and that teaching aspect that you guys came up with, and it doesn't really matter the age of the person you're dealing with, that you just have learned through repetition how to work with people.
I'll take a stab at that. I think that there's two things that have just hit me as you're talking about that, Jason. I think number one, and see if you agree with this, is I think it's work ethic. That's what I learned more than anything. And I think people feel honored by that. When they see you working really hard and they're in the zone and they're recognizing that we're spending countless amount of hours, and we really do. We're just there. We're working to support. I think I learned that. The second thing is, and it's going to relate a little bit to the most recent stuff that I feel like I've gleaned the most from Derek, and maybe more fine-tuned it more than anything is, Derek always says this. He's just like, man, we got to slow down because there's always another side of the story. Always. You get great salesmen and people that call and want to sell you a bill of goods, and you just get convinced. And you're like, well, that's got to be the way it is. And then it's just now you find out from the other side. And I know that we get this about conflict management, but it's really a gift that I think I've honed and learned over the last 3 years again, is just about the ability to do that, to really hear people and to get their side and their perspective. A great question that he always asks is, he's like, well, tell me more about that. Or, hey, what were you thinking on this? Just describe it to me. Help me to understand. That's a statement this guy makes a lot. Just help me to understand a little bit. And it's not a minute of judgment. It's just a way to be like, help me to understand more before I formulate. He is always, and again, this is related to your question, I think coaching wise, but just learning from different mentors, right? He's always slow to speak. I tend to be, as I know we laughed in earlier, and just like, I'm an emotional guy. I'm a passionate guy. And I tend to be the one that I want to get in there right away and I want to start mixing. And he's always about, help me to understand, slow down. Well, what are your thoughts on this? Well, what would you do? And getting everybody before he finally gets the chance to come in and do that. And I think I would say that if you're asking how is that related, or how did I see that even in sports and activities growing up, is you have to see that modeled by the right people that you really respect, right? And I've had some great coaches along the way. I've had some great instructors along the way. I was very high up in our student leadership in high school, and you had a lot of those mentors along the way. But even as adults, we haven't figured it out all the time. And so you have to have other people remind you about how it could or should look to be able to move through that.
I think, yes, all that stuff is a great foundation to as you I guess go up the ladder, so to speak. But you do have to learn to work with adults different than students, right? Like as far as like, okay, there's that change. Some of the principles are the same, but we always say it's not the what, but the how, right? How you deal with the folks. So, and one thing also I'm really proud of, and that you mentioned, it kind of goes with this, is, a lot of our principals in our district, what their background is? Either activities, athletics, or coaching. Like at one point, 2/3 of our principals at the secondary level had an athletics activities background, which was amazing because it's a good training ground for leadership, right? You deal with that conflict, you work with people, you learn to thread the needle. And I mean, we could go around the horn and they've activities director, athletic director. I mean, they've done those roles, and I think that's not a coincidence, So I think that's a good training ground for those leadership positions.
For sure. And to Brad's point about Derek, your ability to listen and be patient and not be the first one to jump in and have a solution before every side gets heard, that's a skill that I feel like our whole world could do a lot better with. I mean, that's maybe a bit of an editorial comment on my part, but in every walk of life, anything that we do, stop and listen and get the other side, or get, if there's multiple sides, like you said, Brad, like there could be a lot of different voices and opinions and perspectives that have to be navigated through a lot of things. So the complexity that you gentlemen navigate is impressive. And like you said, the joy that you take from it, like that was a piece I wanted to, I guess, navigate to something, Brad, you said about the hours that you guys put in. Like you work a normal work day, but then how many nights a week are you at a game or a concert or something like that?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of hours. I mean, it's we joke in the activities athletic world that when school ends at 3, we're at halftime. So like we're halfway through our day because we go. They're long days. I mean, just telling you like it is, right? We get up and do our start our day in the morning like everyone else does, and then we're at games or at a music concert or wherever we are. So they're long days, but those are also for me part of the most rewarding part is the evening events. I love going to those evening events and seeing the student athletes participate and compete, and seeing our coaches and working with our stadium workers, and that's some of the rewarding stuff. But yeah, you're up till especially late. We've all these lightning delays. We're up till 10, 11, and boom, we get up the next morning and here we go again. And so when you sign up to be an athletic director, activities director, you kind of know that going into it, or you should, that man, it's going to be some long days, and Brad hit on it, and he models what he talks about. I've said this multiple times, like to Brad, he's a very hard worker. Like he understands that part of the job. Some people, they get into it, there's like, oh my God, I didn't realize this. And a lot of times with ADs, if you look statewide, they have about the same, career span as a superintendent, which averages like 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. Like every year we go to our CHASA meeting, and there's like 70 to 100 new ADs every year statewide. It feels like 1/3 of our AD, and they just, because of the long hours and they go with this job, so you have to know going into it that's part, and you get this kind of overlap, at least I have throughout the years, where it's just your personal and professional just kind of intertwine, right? Because, when I'd bring my girls to the game when I was going to, they go to games with me, right? And it's part of what you do and part of the fabric of what you got going on. But it's definitely long hours. And so you got to know that going into it.
Sure.
And I think as always, there's just being honest, is you got to have a work-life balance, right? So I'm a part of our organizational development team here in the district, and that's the sole purpose of that. In a lot of ways is to talk about how are we as an organization in a way that the way that we structure and develop to feed into humans who are feeding into humans. And a mentor, big quote from my life is, you can't feed people if you yourself are starving. There's the truth to the very nature of it. And I know that Derek and I have had some good conversations in our department because we want to help people. We really do. And we want to serve. But we also have to recognize there's capacity even in us, that we're a juggernaut as a district. When you got 9 feeder areas, that's 9 high schools, that's 9 middle schools, that's 50 plus elementary schools, that's multiple coaches, activity directors, sponsors, all within that, all wanting a piece of the pie. I will admit, I think that it's part of the learning curve of the balance between that. And, Derek's been challenging on that. He's like, nope, said, nuh-uh, you need to pull back, or nope, we don't need to be doing that, or yes, we need to do more of this. And it's that yin and that yang a little bit there of finding the right place where you're not getting burned out. And that's important that you hear this, right? Because if you're starving, you're just not feeding anybody's, you start choking on the bone, right? Instead of eating the meat of like what's really good about things. And I think that has been just a good place of learning and a good place of conviction when it comes to the nature of this position. And I think, and rightly so, whether this would have been Derek or not, there came a place where we are just big enough where we had to have an assistant director. Doesn't matter if it's me, doesn't matter if it's Derek. We just had to have the right structure to be able to support it. You'd agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to kind of shift a little bit, because we could keep talking about that for a long time, because I'm fascinated by people that are passionate about their jobs, and it's not a job, it's your life, right? And having the balance and figuring that out, but also enjoying that. Let's pivot a little bit to specific programs and things that you guys oversee. And one that I feel bad I haven't mentioned yet, the Unified program and how that's gotten up and going in this school district. Who wants to talk a little bit about that?
Let me start, and then I'm going to let Brad have a lion's share of this, because he's brought it to a whole nother level. So yeah, we've been very supportive of this program for years. We got hired a couple coordinators 10, 12 years ago to help with the program. And then, like a lot of what Brad has done is I said, all right, Brad, I haven't had time to really give this the due that it needs. And he has a passion for Unified too, and that helps, right? He's got a passion for it, and so he's just brought it to the next level. So I'm going to give the lion's share of this question to Brad.
And it's all set up again with the great foundational work, right? So back in 2007, even when they started to play around with the idea of how do we do this at high schools, it's unpaid. Like, you talk about people that want to serve people. We had sponsors that were just doing it for free. They're like, man, we just got to do this for kids. Hey, wait, well, you have a program over there? Well, what if we play a game? Let's get together. Wait, now this school learns about that, and just like anything else that's great, becomes this contagious kind of thing, and bam, it built. And then Derek came to a place, he's like, all right, we got to feed into this. And so let's land some coordinator stipends. And he fought for that during budget season about paying some people to be his boots on the ground. And so we're really proud of the last, we're talking now, 18 years of this thing sort of morphing and growing. And we're not perfect yet. It's important that you understand that. There's a lot of amazing things happen around us, right? In Cherry Creek and Aurora Public and Jeffco and the work that they have that we're trying to base some of our work on. You get some vision and ideas about that. So to get into this a little bit now is we take a look at the high school level. Is the new model that we have right now is we have co-coordinators. So I've hired 2 people now to kind of be our eyes and ears and boots on the ground for high school. We did the exact same thing for middle school. And as of late, I've begun some meetings with our elementary schools for our PK through 6, soon to be PK through 5, for most of us to start building up what it looks like to be a unified kiddo at elementary level. What we were discovering is kids were coming to middle school and they're like, wait, what? What's unified? And tell me a little bit more about that. And how does that work? And for most of our middle schools in the past, it's been only a 7-8 combo. So we only had them for a quick 2 years. And so now with us adding 6th grade in Highlands Ranch by 27, we're going to have it in all schools to now have a 3-year program to really be able to build this thing up. I think it's going to be special. And then our goal is to really spend a lot of time and energy in our elementary schools and allowing them to see the partnership with Special Olympics, the partnership with their feeder, middle, and high school, of getting kids that are beyond high school in our bridge program. And just for the record, we have them coming back, right? So we play in another basketball tournament right around January. So we're coming back after break. It's a big one at Douglas County High School. And we have all of those kids also come back and play, like our rec center kind of programs and whatnot. So you are right to be excited about Unified. I need you to know that. And here's why. I'm going to give you this big thing. We've rebranded this year, and our new slogan that goes with that is, "Welcome to the Inclusion Revolution." And it was something that I heard at our Special Olympics conference last year. And the power that came with that, Jace, is that it's not just about SSN. I need everyone to hear this, right? We think unified, we think SSN, we think, our severe special needs kids, and we partner our kids with that. And we're like, yeah, that's unified. That's not unified. Unified is a much larger, holistic version of what it means to be out through the entire school, about we are unified together about the diversity of everything, right? Our learning styles, color of our skin, our ethnicity, our backgrounds, our personal journeys and stories, and about this acceptance of this unified perspective of what it means. Now, the powerful thing about unified is when it's done well, you have a sports pillar, you have a whole school engagement pillar, and then you have this inclusive student leadership pillar. And when you do those things well, I mean, the stats are through the roof about the impact that you can make on your building. So I just need everyone that's listening, and even the 3 of us again, just to be reminded of this, that it's about something always bigger. It's about something always greater than just what you see on a under the lights kickball night. There's so many more intricacies about what's happening that really make Unified powerful.
That's amazing. Wow. From what I've seen from those types of events, you end up with so many kids showing up for all of those events and cheering on their schoolmates and being there and helping them through all of that stuff. That becomes that unifying event sometimes.
Totally. I mean, think about our Pack the Gym nights, right? That we have. We're playing Parker PD, and we got these kids playing the gym. The stands are packed. We got the marching band there, pep band, and we got that rocking and rolling. We got cheerleaders that are there. Mm-hmm. And we just have like I was just at Cresthill Middle School last year, did their Spread the Word assembly. Blew me away. I mean, just blew me away. When I think about the things that I was able to experience at the Pack the Gym night, even at Cimarron Middle School, and what they were doing and how they were doing it, it's just an important reminder, again, when we rally around each other and we support the uniqueness of each of us, it's a completely different vibe, right? Then, as you said earlier, a little bit of current culture and some of the divisiveness that's around, it just changes it, and it gives the vibe and the feel that we're wanting.
And that's got to be one of those things that just feeds you and keeps you going. And so speaking of the kinds of things that feed you and keep you going, I also wanted to circle back a little bit, Derek, on your legacy. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but what are some of the things that, as you look back at your career, I don't know how much you're doing that yet. You're probably still deep in the middle of it and just go. But if you pause to think about your career, especially as the leader for all the athletics and activities in a big school district, for all these years, what are some of the things that are kind of the big highlights for you that are like, all right, I'm proud that we did this?
Yeah, I think I'll probably have a better answer for that in like a year from now. When you're in the trenches in the middle of it, and we are still just going, it's like when someone does well in athletics and like they get all these records and like, yeah, it's great, but I haven't, I'll think about that more down the road. We got more to do, so I really haven't reflected on it much, to be honest with you, but I mean, the people's number one, right? The people you impact and the help that you give, the servant leadership that you have, you hope that Derek, I know he was always there supporting, always had my back, he would challenge me, but also support me at the same time, and the guy behind the scenes trying to make our principals look good and our ADs look good and our activities directors look good and our coaches look good and coaching them up. I think I did student advisory group for a long time. I really enjoyed that, because that was my one little piece to still keeping that student connection, was to deal with, student leaders throughout all of our districts, or all of our schools in the district, so I really enjoyed that piece. Girls women's sports was a big deal that I did not come up with that, for the record. I inherited that. But I think we brought it to another level, and I think even Brad's bringing it to even another level now. So, I think some of those, the unified program, of course, very proud of that. The activities, stuff that we do in the Continental League in Douglas County, I think it's like second to none. Like, I have not found another district that,
Totally.
Like when we go to Betcher Hall and you watch all those kids, it's an audition band, and you got band, and you got choir, and you got orchestra. I mean, that's their state championship. And I mean, like goosebumps talking about right now. I mean, it is fantastic. It's a great event for those kids, and they love it. And we have a super summit coming up this November. We used to do like a leadership conference and a diversity conference and a publications conference, and we did all these ones. And we said, let's just put it all into one. And we made it a super summit, and these kids come to the super summit to expand their knowledge on the activity side of the world. And our theater, our deco, I mean, it's so many. The activity side of the house is just very, very proud of the activity side of the house. I mean, that's one thing that I don't think it's probably enough light shone on is what we do on the activity side. A lot, it's I don't say it's easy on the athletic side, but athletics is just naturally in the spotlight more, and so, and just the growth throughout the district. Like, we've had a couple new schools go up during my tenure. Like as far as what's happening, a new stadium, the new stadium just barely got built in Echo Park by the time I took over, and just all the stuff that's just happened in the last 16 years has been amazing to be able to navigate that, and there's been some navigation of school leadership, boards change, superintendents. I've had 6 superintendents in 16 years.
Wow.
And
it's crazy.
Yeah. And so in being able to, it goes to another question. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little off topic of you have to adopt the vision of the board and the superintendent, right? Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. Like if I'm in conflict of what, right now it's Erin Kane, so she just got her strategic plan, right? So Brad and I have to look at her strategic plan. We make sure our schools and our athletic and activity programs are matching the strategic plan first and foremost. That's the top vision right here. And, so there's been 6 different strategic plans, if you will, or boards to navigate, throughout, there's been a lot of history here of navigating those, of all the different leaders and being able to adapt, but still keep what you feel is important for activities and athletics. And then also it's that middle ground of supporting what our schools want to accomplish at their school. Like school X is going to look different than school Y, and school X really wants to focus on this. So supporting them and doing that within the big umbrella of what's going on. But school Y has a different focus and a different feel, and that's what they need to focus on. So I want to support them and theirs too, because they have their own, and helping our ADs and coaches support their own vision. I mean, there's one thing you have to align, but you don't also want to dictate everything going to them either as well, right? There's that balance of, if you're a head basketball coach, you want to develop your philosophy and your stuff. And if you're an AD to school, you want to come in with your own mind and your own philosophy. So sorry, it's kind of a long answer of just kind of supporting the middle ground of both sides, right? It's kind of been middle management, for being honest, right? For all these years, is trying to manage everything and yet be a leader of what we do, because we talk a lot about, I'm getting off on it, the urgent versus the important. In our role, like urgent for sure will push out important in a heartbeat. I mean, if there's a lightning delay or a few ADs, or they got a coach does this or a player did that, I mean, you're dropping everything to go deal with that, whereas we want to do some strategic planning or some professional development, and it's just like all the stuff just happens, so to keep that important at the top as well, not just letting the urgent wait out. So I don't know. I'll think more about legacy probably next year. It's not a really great answer. I just haven't thought about it, to be honest with you. I still feel like I'm in the trenches. I'm not looking back yet. Maybe next year this time I'll look back a little more and I'll be able to answer that better. But I still feel, we're meeting after this. We haven't got to catch up in a while to go over things, just to just, we got a lot going on. And so you're just rolling, you just keep running, you know? So maybe I'll come back next year and have a better answer for you.
Okay. We just schedule something.
I think, Derek, one of the coolest things about you too is I think no matter what, it comes back to what's best for kids, not what's best for Derek Chaney or what's best for that specific activity director, though we want to support them in that. I mean, do you agree with that? Like, I always feel like you always come back to kids.
Yeah, it's cliche-ish, but for sure, like you do. Yeah, I agree. We try to. That's the lens. I think we all as educators try to do. Sometimes we get off the rails a little bit, but you got to get back on the rails and okay, what's going to be best for our students in these situations. So yeah.
I mean, we've had some wing dinger decisions.
Yeah,
and all of them come back down to no. I'm doing what's best for kids. We're gonna have dialogue with adults, but I think that's, you know, you talk about legacy, right? That's what I hope to continue on wherever this department goes, is that Derek and I hope to continue to share that, is we've got to keep our eye on the prize with that, right? I mentioned people earlier for me, that's important, but we just got to, what is best for kids in this scenario and how do we adjust to keep that? And sometimes it means it's really hard decisions that parents disagree with, or a coach disagrees with, or an AD disagrees with. But we've got to do it in a way that people understand this isn't about us. It's about our kids and about how we best serve. And I just think that's a part of his legacy, is continuing on that reminder to everyone.
For sure. Are there any efforts, are you guys working on, like, you mentioned like the strategic plan. Do you, for your department, like codify that in any way? Like this is what the athletics, activities, and student leadership department kind of stands for. And here's our like core beliefs and things like that.
That's funny you ask that, because, you know, Brad's really pushed on that in a good way too. And again, we've had to keep what we believe is important, but also navigate to who your leader is, right? Like I had one superintendent who was highly involved, who actually wanted to come when we did a coaches academy, for example, and they wanted to be a part of the coaching academy and speak at it and bring people in. And so, of course, that's the superintendent of the district. Like, okay, great, you know, come on in, we'll do it. Yeah. And so you kind of adjust to like, okay, to be honest, it's not something I probably wanted to do on one of them, but I was like, okay, well, this is important to our superintendent, so we need to defer to them. But yeah, we've done, you know, coaches academy, so out there and talk about what it means to be a Douglas County coach or an employee, or we should do middle school coaching academies. But you know, I think that's something, with that being relatively new, the strategic plan and the new person that fills my role, you know, I think that's something that's going to probably be one of the, I'd say, top priorities, is to, you know, because we're just unveiling the streets in its infant stages right now, right? So whoever takes my role, I think that's going to be important for someone who does take my role, is to, okay, where are we at with our board and superintendent, and how do we, with the new person's vision of how they want to do that. I think that's important, because, you know, the timeline for this is, you know, I think they'll probably hire for my position January or February. That'll give me 3 months to kind of work with the new person, whoever it is, and have that transition period. And then, but I think that would be probably priority, you know, top, if not priority one, top three priorities for sure, is to develop that.
Mm-hmm. Be able to pass it on. And yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, and you know, and whatever Brad role he's in next year, you know, he can be the conduit or the bridge that, you know, whatever role he's at, he can really help that. And he's, to brag on Brad a little bit, he's got a real, I mean, he gets in the trenches too, and he's got, you know, the structural part, but the big picture too of keeping that lens of, okay, let's align it. What do we need to work on? What are our core values? What are our pillars? You know, what do we need to do? I think that's one of Brad's strengths too. I think, is whoever that new person coming in, either way.
Like what you're just hearing, I just want everyone to hear that. This is what he does all the time.
All the time.
Like, he's so crafty about, like, you directed that to him, and what do we do? And then he builds other people up. Absolutely. I really mean that. So I need you just experience firsthand what I get to experience all the time with this guy. So it's just really impressive. And I do agree with Derek that no matter what happens with the department next year, is we've just got to stay true to, I agree, the strategic vision, and then really, you know, adding our own layer about things of, you know, Derek and I talk a lot about, you know, men of integrity, right? And really doing what's right no matter the circumstance that we're in, right? When no one's watching, we're doing the right stuff. We want to serve people. Other big words for Derek and I are to innovate and adapt, right? And this is a part of the important thing of, how do we adapt a little bit here? How do we innovate in our department to stay current? As an example, right, we just updated our last 3 high schools last year to have digital scoreboards. So now all 9 high schools have digital scoreboards. Welcome to the digital revolution.
Right.
And then all 3 of our stadiums that started with Derek, was this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, over at Advent now? So he added in our first outdoor, right, digital scoreboard. And as of this year, we now have our stadium in Highlands Ranch and our stadium in Parker, now both with digital boards. And I'm telling you right now, it is just growing like a wildfire and what people are wanting to do. And your experience at a game now as an end user, as we call them, the end user experience, it's completely different. That you ask about our upbringing, like when we were playing soccer and whatever, we weren't even staring at a board. I didn't have a board on my soccer field, right? You just had to trust that the official knew the score and how much time was on the clock.
Right.
But now we've come to a level that we're
numbers or whatever.
Yeah, all that, right? But now all of a sudden it's hype videos, it's player cards, it's welcome, concessions are open. And we have a video that now plays when we're in, I mean this, Jace, like we have been in lightning delay USA the last two. I mean, it's
been crazy.
It was our first 7 games, all had lightning delays and significant ones. We're not talking like a half hour.
Yeah.
Like he and I are calling each other, how you doing over there? Well, I'm still in one here, still in one here. And like hour and a half later, we're just starting the game. My point is when we talk about innovating and adapting, this is a whole other level now for our district stadiums and what it can do and how it's impacting. I mean, I've already been in conversations, Derek and I, with people around how do we connect with CTE in our career college pathways about sports broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
And motion graphics and developing curriculum to get, and this is again, part of our goal is we want to be selfless leaders, which means sometimes we just need to get out of the way. Like we need to set the table and let other people just start chowing down and developing that. And I think that in the next 2 years, I mean this, my hope is that eventually down the road, it's live shots of our crowd, it's instant replay, it's commentary that's already happening with a couple feeder areas, but building this in within all of our schools about what it looks like. And all we did, Jace, we had the vision along with Mr. Danny Windsor and our amazing cabinet to be like, let's get some of these digital boards going. I see where you and Derek are trying to go on this. We support that and now build this thing out. And I just think that that's like a small microcosm example of the things that we're trying to do when I mention things like innovate and adapt.
Well, that's impressive to think about when people think, oh, it's just the flashy scoreboard. We need to have a flashy scoreboard. But no, in a school district, in an educational environment, no, we're talking about that's also going to have some educational ramifications.
Boom.
And we're going to have kids that learn how to do this. And that's a career pathway that they can go down and flip the switch and look at this. It's not just for entertainment value. You guys constantly finding ways to infuse the education piece into everything that you're doing. That's the impressive piece to me, hearing this over and over again. It's about the kids. It's about helping them grow. And wow.
don't get lost in that, right? Derek talked also, there's 2 sides of this, right? There's our athletic side, and we're excited about that. Obviously, it's one of the A's or the 3 A's, the academics, athletics, activities. And there's this part where we're like, oh man, and it's crazy. Like when you're sitting at a game, Derek and I talk about this all the time, man. Like some of our schools, we got huddle cameras up in the perch that are then sending a signal through a sideline unit that coaches in the booth are breaking down play by play, then rolling those into, shooting down to the sidelines with a monitor on the sidelines, and coaches now on an offensive and a defensive and a special teams look, you follow me on this?
Yeah.
Are now breaking down. So they're doing real-time analysis and making adjustments. Then I walk into the next booth, and there is a student production side. They have multiple camera angles. They're adding in their own flavor and style of like different things for their specific school. Sure. They're having commentary over the top. And I'm talking, this is like an elaborate system. But then we have the activity side where, Derek mentioned already, and I want to make sure that everyone's hearing this, but we have a Continental League Music Festival, our best of the best. And where do we go? We're going to Betcher Hall. We're downtown Denver is a chance to showcase all this, right? Last year with our art festival, we're going over to Arapahoe Community College, and we actually have a full gallery that's set up so that people in the community can come in and can witness the kinds of things that are going on. It's just that constant idea of what's another way that we can tweak, and how do we get a little bit better and a little bit better? How can we see it differently? And then surrounding ourselves with the right leaders that want to be able to bring some of that to life.
That's impressive. Wow. I was going to ask about some of those things. Maybe a catch-all question can be, we've talked a lot about athletics. What about the activity side? And the whole idea that with activities, there's something for everybody. How do you work from your standpoint to ensure that that's true?
Well, I think, and I was an activities director in the building for 5 years, and a lot of in our world, we like to delineate between activities and clubs. So the clubs at the school are really fluid, and they can go from year to year, right? You might have a book club. I've seen a ping pong club. I've seen a knitting club. I've seen all kinds of clubs, right, throughout the time. And teachers are great, and kids usually initiate. Hey, can we do such and such club? Oh, great. How many kids you got? What do you want to do? All right, us, 17 kids. We'll meet after school, and we'll have a sponsor. And that's right. Now those 17 kids have a place to go. And probably one of the biggest examples I just think off the right top of my head is esports. That's one that has over time has just really become like, my goodness, like from like 10 years now, what is this esports thing? To all of a sudden to where we are now, like and it connects a certain kid to our schools, which is fantastic, right? They get to wear their school colors, they're competing, CHASA now sanctions it, they have a state championship, and that draws in another connection activity, like, and we have some passionate sponsors that are great, man. They're awesome, right? They are so passionate about me with our kids because they know the importance of that connection is the key, right? No matter if it's athletics or activities or club, and it brings that kid in. And so, I mean, that's just an idea off the top of my head that just, it really brings in a different kid, when I was in activities, you oversee the theater department, you walk down, the performing arts hallway, and my God, those kids are just so close knit, and they have their own thing going on, and they're just really, it's just a great place for them to be. And whether there's all kinds of, student leadership and DECA and FBLA and FCCLA, and we go on, all the clubs. I mean, Brad and I have collected, we have like this spreadsheet with like the 9 different tabs of our high schools. And in fact, we had the high schools and middle schools get together the other day for that vertical articulation for activities. And man, you look at our sheet and there's like 40, it seems like 40 clubs or activities on every school, and they might not all be the same. Probably 20 or 25 are the same, but the other 15, like, oh yeah, this is cricket's big at our school. Well, we don't have cricket, but we have this, we have something else. So we're just different places for kids to fit in. That's the goal, right? And I think our sponsors and teachers, and then people have a heart for kids that get in this profession, and they a lot of times they just volunteer to do it just to help the kids. So I don't know if you want to add anything to.
Well, just that's such a good intro about esports. I think is a great example here, Jace. Is one of my favorite stories is over at Pondo with Coach Cross, and he talked to me about his very first esports meeting. He had the kids come in and he just could not get them to talk. He's just trying to connect, like, who's involved with nothing? Well, who's involved with? And now we have this esports thing, and he was just looking at these kids being like, why did they come then? Right? Like, we're here, but it's really quiet. And then he goes a month later, it's my favorite part, is like, Brad, now I can't get him to shut up. They just love each other, and they love being around each other. And when Derek and I have been at CHASA-sanctioned state championships for esports, it is a rallying cry for these kids to be able to come together and experience that. And so I look at the development of that, I think, which is huge. And by the way, we also have a unified esports that's going out there as well. So those kids are being involved in that. That was another progression of this innovate and adapt, and how do we continue to grow. But I think Derek's right that when we looked at our purposeful work in bringing our middle school activity directors with our high school activity directors, is people do not truly understand the magnitude of things that happen behind the scenes on a daily basis in our buildings. The amount of moving parts, the amount of teachers that want to be involved in these kids' lives, photography clubs and just general homework clubs and math clubs and anime clubs and Magic the Gathering clubs, anything that can try to connect a kid to their building. We just have people that are unconditionally willing to give of their time. And it's a lot of times, I love, Derek, what you said. It's like the unseen things, right? Athletics is just by the nature of the beast. It's more exposed. We see it. It's out. Community come to, etc. But when we're hosting a pickleball tournament for our high school kids, somebody's showing up for that. It's our high school kids and their coaches and sponsors, and they're wearing their uniforms, and they're playing and giving paddle fives, and they're just laughing and loving at all of it. And you look at that, and that's the brilliance of what happens on the activity side, I think, is it's so much of the unseen, of the selfless giving that's happening with our sponsors that want to give time and give our kids a place to connect. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. But the amount of kids that come to a Dungeons and Dragons club and they just have this ability to connect, and you have an adult that loves on them unconditional because they're kind of into it as well,
right?
Is a chance to do that and allow kids to grow is, I think, the inspiring piece to what we need to do. And I would say for all the people that are listening, is you have no idea all the things that are happening. And so we need to celebrate that. I mean, like to Derek's point, there's a spreadsheet we have for each middle and high school, 9 tabs, right? And you look at all the clubs that are being offered. And like, I would say on average, I agree with Derek, like in a feeder area, we're talking like 40 to 60 clubs, sometimes more than that in a feeder area between middle and high school. And yet you would never know that those things are going on.
Right. Unreal. But it's providing opportunities for these kids to grow and also be part of a community, which is a huge aspect of this and something that we keep hearing about kind of on a big global scale about isolation in this era where people have their phones and they can just get lost in their phone and think that somehow is an approximation of being in community with people in real life. But here we've got teachers and sponsors and coaches, people helping make sure that these kids know what it's like to actually deal with each other and learn from each other and get along and have fun and grow in real life. And
I mean, just this weekend, Jason, we have a yearbook trip. They're going for 3 straight days and they're working on planning their entire yearbook. Wow. And these teachers are giving up multiple nights, full days. Oh, that's right. On the weekend to help out our entire yearbooks. And when you see these yearbooks coming through and seeing the products they're doing to celebrate and look back, sorry to interrupt you on that. I just get excited about it. Like people don't recognize, I think people do, but maybe people don't realize might be a better word, all of the trips that are happening, all of these extended pieces of which people are giving up their time to be able to go give these kids a once in a lifetime experience and to build the community that you're talking about. And as research says, right, for every new relationship that we can develop with a kid, right, and a kid feels connected, man, test scores goes up, their social and emotional sense of well-being goes up, their sense of self-confidence, and their sense of self-efficacy grows with that as well. And that's the power of empowerment that we get through athletics and activities, is to be an extension beyond the classroom to allow those kids to really experience a new identity.
So much that goes into this. I could listen to you guys talk for hours. We've been at it for quite a while, and I know you've got another, as people are listening to this, while we're recording this, I'm looking at my computer, it's 3:02. It's halftime, Derek.
Halftime. That's right.
2 minutes.
Little water break. Yeah, the water break.
Little orange slices and we're ready to go.
We're halftime, yeah.
So real quick, last thing I want to ask you guys, something that sticks out, just an amazing or funny or weird anecdote of something that's happened in your career that just sticks out, that you just every once in a while you go back and look at that and kind of laugh or smile, or you're just like, wow, we did that.
Oh man, let me think. Yeah. While we're thinking, I'll let Brad first, but while we're thinking it, for if they are listening, I do want to give a shout out, and we'll come back to that question. Just you know, if they are all the sponsors and coaches out there and activities directors and athletic directors, middle school, high school, man, they spend a lot of time too. Like they spend so much time just having an impact on our kids, you know, and there's a lot of hard workers in our system that just have, you know, a heart for kids. And I just want to make sure that's said, you know, that I don't know if they're going to listen to this or not, but if they do, I just want to just thank them for all the work they do. So, and I know you went in on something funny and something good, so I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh no, I
got to think of something while you're talking here.
I think we'll both go off of each other probably in this one. I think, and by the way, just so we're clear, you know, I know that we talked about middle and high school, but we need to pause too to remember there's a lot that's happening at happening at elementary. We have people doing like the redshirt rookies program for some of our unified kids. We have like archery clubs going on. We have rock climbing clubs that are going on. There are, again, it's just an additional extension of, I just need to say this with Derek, to any teacher that's listening that's in our PK through 12 system, a coach, a sponsor, is that your work is recognized and we sense the value in it. And we really hope that you feel that from both of us on this. And yeah, so I just really agree with that we need to give a shout out to recognize all that work. I don't know if it's funny, but Derek and I last year were in the state football playoffs over at Highlands Ranch Stadium. Are we good sharing this?
Can't make this stuff up.
Okay.
So praise goodness that it's halftime. Poof. Lights completely fail.
I was actually going to ask about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
We have zero lights. And for whatever reason, unfortunately, the generator did not kick in, and So we're watching this just sea of cell phone lights coming across, waving across the crowd. We're getting, coaches back out on the field. Thankfully, this did not happen in the middle of a play. So it really was right at halftime, which is kind of a comical timing. And I just remember standing with like cop car spotlights because we had to pull them out on the side, and we're just having to go through these decisions about what are we going to do and how are we going to make this happen. And then the light come back on. We're like, oh, well, that saves that. Good. 2 minutes later, poof, light goes back off. And we're like, oh my gosh. So Derek does what Derek does, and he's connecting with the ADs that are there and the head coaches, and we make the decision to move this entire playoff football game to Echo Park.
Unreal.
And so I just need everyone to know I was driving the legal speed limit, but I felt like I was back in the day where you claimed your land and whoever was the fastest horse out could put the stake in the ground. But if you saw an over 30,000 foot view of this, you'd have the one lead horse and then this like kind of triangle of just mass humanity. For me, that's my funniest memories. I'm driving down 470 like a bat out of you-know-what,
right?
Because I got to get to Echo Park. I'm calling the stadium manager. We're opening gates. We're turning on lights. And I show up, and I need you to hear this. From the moment that Derek and our crew made the decision to switch, we moved 2,000 people, 2 full football teams, and we started that next game within an hour and a half, or that second half within an hour and a half. From the moment we made that decision, just this mass of humanity moved out there. But let's be real, and this is my favorite part, is Derek at the end is like, well, in my whole career, I've never had that happen before.
That was a new one. Yeah, that was unbelievable. The saving grace in that was that all the coaches and ADs agreed. That was the saving grace. And all of them were like, yes, because especially football, no one wants to go to the next day.
Right.
And then it appeared, it was bad that it came on and then went back off because like, oh my God, we can't, someone could be in the middle of a play and all of a sudden the lights go off. Yeah. It's a safety issue. And that was the saving grace, is everyone and Brad was just amazing. He got there, had him and the stadium manager got over there and got it set up. And with the time that ended to the time, it was 90 minutes, we got that game started again.
That is incredible.
Oh yeah. There's so many stories of, you can't make this up, like of dealing with people over the years and the different, whether it's a funny parent story or a student or a kid. And I don't know if it's appropriate. I don't know why this came to mind. You'll actually laugh at this, I think, is it used to be one of our school's traditions to have a streaker at a game. So picture the scene, and one of our stadium managers chasing a streaker over the fence. Oh, so yeah. Oh, yeah. It was pretty. I'm not gonna leave out names right now, but I'll tell him off later. But yeah, so it's a picture of one of our current stadium managers chasing this streaker over the fence into like the weeds and all the stuff back there. My God, it was. I mean, I just can't get that picture out of my mind, like of just this doing it. So, needless to say that school got rid of that tradition after that. They got rid of that tradition. But just things over the years from. Just all the things we deal with, this is like, it's just, I should write a book. People tell me, just of the things, man, you just can't make this stuff up. You just can't. And but anyway, but fun, a lot of the cool events too. Like all the stuff that fills your bucket, like there's a lot of, rivalries that go out and all the different sports and, from all the things that we deal with. So,
And you guys always have kind of the best seat in the house for a lot of this stuff. I mean, you might have to put in a lot of hours, but you get to be right there and see and hear it, like, when somebody makes a great play, or even when some of these kids maybe didn't succeed, but they're learning how to pick themselves back up again and do that kind of a thing and build resilience and so many things that you get just literally the front row seat to.
Yeah, sometimes that's more rewarding to see that build resilience. That you see them falter or not play as well as they could, or shouldn't, see where they're gonna go. And you're right. Like another thing that came to mind when you said this, we were on the field for the state championship game last year in Fort Collins for football. We had front row seat right there, field passes, watching just our kids participate and compete, and like, how cool is this? Just I mean that's the stuff that fills the bucket too.
For sure. Yeah. So. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you. Again, I could listen. We could do this over and over and over again, and I'd ask too many questions, and you guys get really tired of it. But it's so much fun to hear about this and to be inspired by what you're doing. And And to look back, Derek, at your career and all the foundations of goodness and greatness that I feel like what I've heard and seen that you've helped put in place and build up so many different people. So thank you and congratulations on an amazing career.
No, thank you for saying that. Thank you both. This has been great. And you know, you hear a lot of cliche in this athletic. It's been a good run, right? It's been a good run. Do it again in a heartbeat, and you hope you have that impact, right? And you know, you just sometimes you don't know the impact you have until later on, right? And it's kind of like coaching. You'll see a kid come and visit you.
That's right.
You know, 15 years later, oh, coach, I still remember you. And it was a bit, you know. So hopefully, you know, it'll be more impactful even as you know as they look back and as time. Some space in between here.
Sure. Oh, that ripple in the water. You got ripples going out.
Yeah. So it is. He's rippled a lot. Yeah. Big waves and that. So
absolutely.
And he'll also reveal his full back tattoo that he's getting in celebration of retirement. It's pretty great. You guys are gonna love it.
A full back tattoo.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's like wings. So he kind of
Oh. That I cannot picture.
No. What were you gonna say? No, don't picture that because that won't happen. No, you don't need to picture that. So. No, I think I just got called old by you guys, but maybe not. No. I'm just teasing you guys. I'm just teasing. So anyway, thanks for having us. I really appreciate you highlighting the importance of activities in athletics and you know, thank you for you know, complimenting me too. But I think just the importance of activities and athletics for our students. I think that's, you know, the connection that brings to them, there's just lessons they learn outside of the classroom that just can't learn anywhere else. So thank you I appreciate you highlighting the importance of athletics and activities.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And again, thank you for all that you've poured into it, both of you guys, that living it day by day and just inspiring everybody. So thank you. And here's to fewer lightning delays.
Hey!
Thanks for listening to DCSD Notebook from Douglas County School District, which serves more than 60,000 students, making it the third largest public school district in Colorado. With 92 schools, including neighborhood schools, charter options, and homeschool support, DCSD is a welcoming home for every style of learner. To find out more, visit dcsdk12.org. And make sure to hit the follow button in your favorite podcast app so you can get every new episode, as well as Parent University once a month, where we hear from experts within the district and from the larger community talking about timely, relevant issues that parents face in our complex world. We're here to help you, so if you have a question and can't find the answer on our website, email communications@dcsdk12.org and we'll help point you in the right direction.